Hi everyone, this is Sandra Kluge with Recording Tap, a podcast about the art, the process, and the musicianship of recording tap and other foot percussion.
The making of the art and the expressing through music happened then when we were cutting and pasting the music.
In this episode, I'm talking to musician and dance artist Janne Eraker. She is based in Oslo, Norway, and has released 3 albums so far. In 2022, she released her debut album Gull Variations with her improv trio One Small Step, which was recorded at a church from the 13th century. The following year, she released the epic project Movements for Listening, which is a wild exploration of how tap can be used as percussion in a variety of musical styles, genres, and collaborations. It features 10 different locations, 11 collaborators, and a sheer endless number of textures. Tap dance on wood, metal, bubble wrap, sand, and water, with different types of shoes and with bare feet, as well as Janne playing on a collection of taps hanging from a rack and wooden taps bound together in her hands like castanets. And then last year, she released an album with her tap electronic music duo project I, which explores what happens when you plug a tap dancer into the computer. Through a contact mic, Janne's taps trigger a variety of electronic setups such as sequencers, drum synthesizers, and envelope followers. Janne is a 2-time recipient of a 3-year artist grant from Arts Council Norway, is the first tap dancer to be included as a musician in the Norwegian Jazz Forum, and is leading the Oslo studio collective Dansens House. Welcome, Janne Eraker. Thank you for joining me for this Recording Tap interview series.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to talk with you, Sandra.
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk to you as well. Can you maybe tell us just a little bit about how you got into recording tap and kind of what the motivation was? Is that something that you've been wanting to do for a while, or is that something newer?
Well, the first album I recorded was with my improv trio, One Small Step, and it just came. The wish for to do a recording was just a natural next step, haha, for One Small Step to do. Roger and Vegard, who I was in a band with, they already have like hundreds of albums out, and since we were playing concerts. It's also nice to bring something that people can buy. So it was completely natural to think that we would record something. And then actually, I have it here. I'll show you. Actually, this is it's a CD. We wanted to make a vinyl, but we couldn't afford it, so we made like a fake vinyl.
Oh, I love that. It's so pretty.
Yeah, and but the way we made it happen, or the extra sort of motivation to do it, was actually the pandemic, because we had a tour planned, and then of course it got cancelled, and then we asked the Norwegian Arts Council, where we had our funding from, if we could use the money to record instead. So that made it possible, and also we had so much time, and it's a small band. We're just 3 people, so we only needed one person to do the sound and one to make a video, and so we were allowed to do that during that summer of the pandemic. Yep. And so that's how we got there.
Yeah. Was that your very first recording project?
Yeah, at least the first one to actually come out as an album. I mean, it's on all like streaming platforms, and it's like, an actual CD. Before that, I've been recording a lot just to evaluate and learn from, because I improvise a lot, and I spent a lot of years, and I still do, listening back to what happened and sort of understanding again what happened from the outside, and to register like the total sound of what's happening. Of course, I'm listening for that while I'm improvising as well, but it's just it teaches me so much to listen to the music without moving around and dancing and making decisions, and just listening for the actual audible result. So that I've been doing for some time, just on a on my phone or with a Zoom or whatever thing was laying around. And also, I mean, just as a side note, as a dancer, there's a lot of videos of rehearsals and performances, and I have to force myself to watch sometimes because for the same thing, like to learn and to check and to evaluate. But I really have a hard time looking at myself on a video for many reasons. And but listening to a crappy rehearsal audio track, that's not a problem. I'll do that anytime. I mean, I'll with my electronic projects. Project A, we always do super long stretches, like something between 20 and 40 minutes of improvisations, and sometimes I'll just put that on and let it be on while I'm tidying the living room and sort of listening to what's going on. So at least that's, I mean, of course I'm critical and you can hear all the things you want to improve, but I think it's much less scary than the video part. So
Yeah.
yeah, so in that way there's been some audio recording. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's interesting how the just listening to it is such a different experience from watching and listening, even if it's the same thing. Like you watch
it's
it with a
crazy.
video first and then without, it's like
It's
things that you
crazy.
didn't notice. It's so
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and also really also the fact that you're producing the music or you're listening to yourself producing the music. Like the I find it's a big difference how I experience the music when I'm expressing myself, and then after when I'm just listening and sitting still or walking around or with my body in a different mode, sort of
Yeah.
separated from the intention, maybe somehow. Yeah, it's really funny, and it really I can't recognize myself in the sound. I'm like, I mean, especially since there's a lot. I mean, I usually improvise, and I hear the sounds, and I know I'm making them, or I made them, and then I'm like, but what did I do, and how did it, what, like what, which surface am I tap dancing on now? Like it'll be so, um, yeah, such an outside perspective somehow, and really
Hmm.
I think it's really fun. And the more abstract and the more sort of estranged it is, the more fun I have
Hmm.
observing it. And I can't often there's a video that I can check if I really need to know what happened there, what was I doing, which step, or uh, is the metal sound, is that me or is that the drummer, or like but I rarely go to check. I just enjoy the fact that it's a bit mysterious, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So right now you have 3 albums out, right?
Yeah, I have them here.
Yeah.
I just showed you the first one, and the second was also a pandemic project. What can you do without an audience?
Yeah.
So it's a huge project with 11 musicians joined me for 10 different recordings. I also made like amazing amount of liner notes,
That's
a double,
amazing.
double vinyl, and also a huge art project. I asked a good friend of mine to make murals for me. He made like 12 3 by 4 meter
Wow.
murals. Yeah, insane. And he also came and did it for the release concert. He made 5 pieces of 3 by 50. It was just a big scale on things. That's the second one. And then last year, my electronic project had its own album out. And this is with A. We are 2 people. It's me and a electronic musician. His name is Christopher Lislegård, and we always improvise on stage, or also when we're rehearsing. And from 2023, we picked out 5 stretches, we call them in Norwegian, pieces out of concerts that we had,
Hmm.
um, and made an album out of those live recordings. They have been mixed and mastered, but they haven't been edited. It's just we have only chosen like where it starts and stops from each concert. Yeah, those are the three albums.
Very cool. Yeah, I also love all the album art. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you're into that. That's right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool that you just do that and that you don't limit yourself. Uh, I was
Yeah.
I was dreaming about the artwork for my next project, which I'm working on right now, and I have so many wishes for the art, but I feel so like I can't. I could try to do it, but it would just it wouldn't be good. I need to ask someone to do it for me. But it's so much fun to connect the visual with the project, I think.
Yeah, it is. I agree. Yeah. I'm curious how you approached the collaboration with each musician for the different albums. Was it kind of similar or was it completely different processes?
There are many different processes, and that's been really enjoyable and really like actually this idea, especially for the second double vinyl album, it's the project was an idea for a master's program, which I ended up
Hmm.
not doing. So it was really extensive research in a way. The motivation came much more out of wanting to learn and understand and test and just try really in praxis, try out a whole lot of things rather than I have so much to express, so I need to do it on two vinyls. Like it was. I mean, of course, I have a lot to express, but the fact that I wanted to do the project was about my curiosity for how it can be done in how many ways. So um, uh, this these are 10 recordings, and I have 10 locations for them. So each recording is in its own location, and so that already means a lot for the recording. For example, in some locations, I mean, I had a good budget, so but in some locations you can only be there for a very short amount of time because it's I don't know, it's like a museum, and you need a guard to open the door, and then you can work for only daytime, and like there's
Mm.
those limitations. And then other places is like you just enter and you just stay there for a week and do your thing, and then that's a whole different premise for how to work. Some of the places were more like two or three places were really actually sort of different types of music studios where there's already so much set up and you just sort of enter and you execute and then you go.
Hmm.
um, so yeah, we were in a mausoleum with like a 15-second reverb, totally insane. I almost got like
Wow.
car sick from being there, and it was really interesting to. I assumed that I wouldn't be able to groove with my band, with my collaborators, um, and if we were more than sort of 2 meters apart, that would be difficult. But if we stayed close, it was very much possible. Uh,
Hmm.
so we were connected, but then on top of that, the sound would sort of disappear and come back again in a very uh, disorientating way, sort of. And I was in a boathouse where I could tap dance on the whole floor, and every plank, every board was different sounding. I was in a huge church, of course, very different again, and uh, in rooms with a lot of acoustic or very dry rooms, and with in each room it was a different collaboration. So I was the only one, me and the video guy and the sound guy. We were the ones who sort of knew the whole project, because for each place I had a different collaboration. Some of them were very much based on improvisation, and some were more in. There was one composition in 3 parts that was really. It's even like there's sheet music to that if you would want to
Hmm.
reproduce it. Um, and Yeah, some one of the funniest or most surprising things for me was the one with Knut Reiersrud, who is like he's famous in Norway at least, and he's an old guy. Like he has just so much experience that you can just you just have to follow his lead in a way. And he's
Mm.
super kind and super relaxed. And his approach was like, okay, here he plays guitar, but he made me some kind of bass line. He suggested that for our composition, and I was like, yeah, that's great. And then practiced. It was a 5/4, but not super stressful. 5/4, nice and slow, and 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 I would just practice on my own, and then I would just meet him in that church. We wouldn't have anything ready composed yet, and then we were working with a metronome, click track, and then we just recorded bits. Like he made that bass line, and then he doubled it with his guitar, and
Mm.
then the sound guy just copy pasted it, so I had it on my ear for like 10 minutes. It was just
Mm.
rolling, and then I just improvised and did something that could be a solo, and then we did another little chunk where we had a little break, and then we stopped again, and then we did another little chunk where like it was just little bits,
Mhm.
and then he was like, okay, what do you think, what kind of an ending, like talking in between. It's so weird for me because I was so used to getting into some kind of mood, and then just doing it and not discussing
Mhm.
it. And then we listened back to some of the bits, and I was like, oh, I think I want to do some soft chew out on the wooden floor of the church. And I tried that, and then it felt wrong. It felt like not big enough of a contrast. Then I was like, oh, let me try to do some sand dance. And then I did some sand dance. And then he pulled out a fiddle, which I totally didn't expect from. And he played this like a little bit distorted thing. And anyway, so there was like a whole lot of bits. And then
Mm.
we met in the sound studio of the sound technician, and listened, and like I had listened to all of the bits at home, of course, and then I knew, oh, I don't like this part, or here I'm messing up in a way I don't like, blah blah blah. And then we just selected like the best of, and then put it all together, and now
Hmm.
it's a track, and it sounds like it's the most coherent thing on the album, I think. It's like the
That's so
most,
interesting.
it has like a, a very clear form, and it's satisfying because it's so solid in a way.
Hmm.
But uh, in the making of it, it was so fragmented.
Yeah,
You
that's
know
so
what I?
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
guess
one
you.
would,
Yeah,
I feel like one would expect the opposite, that like if the
yeah,
recording feels like you're just doing it, then it'll come across like that, and if it's fragmented, it'll feel all
yeah,
over the place. But that's so
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And I realized, I learned, of course, that this is how professional musicians also, a lot of them work like this, and they can. I mean, we were depending on the metronome.
Yeah.
Like he needed to have the click track when he was making the first couple of bits, and then I related to that, and then
Hmm.
so everything could fit and everything worked out. There was no, and we're only two players. Like there's, and we did. I think we did half of all the bits separately. Like he did it, then it was my turn, then it was his turn, and then we did a couple of things together, but very short and very clear. Like, okay, we're going for this part now. We'll roll this groove for 7 bars, and then we'll have this sort of break in between, and then like it very nice and clean. And yeah, it was also like the making of the art and the expressing through music sort of happened then when we were cutting and pasting the music. You know what I mean?
Mm, yeah.
Sitting
Yeah.
on a chair and being like, "Oh, this is great. Oh, no, no, okay, take this away, put this in there. No, 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 now it fits." And yeah, that was new to me, to be in a creative mode at that technical stage. and not
Yeah.
just before. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because to me it always feels like the recording studio is like a completely different palette that I'm using, as opposed to live performance. Do you feel like you approach?
I don't know how to answer really, because these, especially this research album thing with the 10 different recordings, they're so different in how they sound. Each of them,
Mhm.
like one with Michaela Antalova, the drummer, is the most super, super, super soft, minimal, almost like ASMR, like. And since we're in a studio, you can put the mics really close to her fingers on the drums and to my soft shoes on the sand or whatever. And then you, when you listen to the recording, you're like right there where the feet are, and
Mhm.
and that's a bit harder to do in a live setting if it's a bigger stage, or if there's some noise and there's a bar, or there's, I mean, there would be places where you could do that, but it's not like, usually I would play louder, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to take it that far down in a live setting, and but in with the recording, that was really enjoyable to zoom in that much on the sound, and then when you listen to it, especially with headphones, or you can like be in that little sound. That's really satisfying. Mm, but I guess most of them sound more like what it sound pretty much close to what it is live. For example, that mausoleum with the 15-second reverb, that then the audience would need to be there. And I mean, like, because you can't bring that reverb. I mean, I guess you could put some fake reverb
Yeah.
on your PA somehow. But this mausoleum is a place where people arrange concerts for that reason, that you can
Mm.
play very extreme and specific music there, and then people go there for that experience in that building. And then, yeah, if you come to Oslo, you should go there too. Like, either to just there's also the mausoleum um, is a museum. There's murals that are like 12 meters up in the,
Well.
yeah, it's an amazing place, but there's a lot of concerts, so you would bring the audience, and then we could actually do what's happened, what we have on the album. The also recorded in a little house, a little tree house.
Hmm.
uh, side note, or little story, that's the house where the last henchman lived in Oslo with his
Oh
family.
wow.
Yeah,
Huh.
when there was still a henchman here. And
Interesting.
yeah, that house is still standing, and it's standing in the middle of the city, but the place is called Galgeberg, which is Gallow Berg. So that's why that song is
Huh.
called Galgeberg, um, where they did the executions. But that's a tiny tree house. I could stand up, but I couldn't. I wouldn't shouldn't be jumping high. Like, it's a low ceiling, and it was also full of instruments because it's a musician's practice space now.
Hmm.
There wouldn't fit any audience in there. Maybe two more people besides the sound guy. So, but that the sound of that recording wasn't. I mean, it was just a bit intimate and sort of woody, uh, uh, but could be could be done anywhere. I think what was challenging for me was, and this is like a slightly different topic, but still very relevant for me concerning recordings. It was with him. We had an actual. He made a composition, and then a very regular form. It had a special, a little bit syncopated melody that I was following, and it had a B part, and it had, very traditional. He plays the banjo.
Yeah.
It's like old timey music, and I it was hard to relax and to groove properly,
Hmm.
and that was the. I mean, yeah, that can be hard live as well. But knowing that it was recording, uh, um, put a pressure on it that was. I don't feel that same kind of pressure when I'm just improvising. When I
Hmm.
improvise freely, I really give myself permission to be in the moment and to wait and to, and if I notice that I'm getting stiff, or like I have some strategies to deal with that pressure. But when you're
Hmm.
supposed to just hold the groove nice and groovy, 16 notes and soft, because he's in focus, not me. And my groove was just not, it wasn't horrible, but it was definitely not okay. Like it wasn't nice.
Hmm.
And I was intimidated by the microphones, by the three guys. I had the video guy, sound guy, and Hans Martin playing the banjo, and all of them are so super professional, and I felt so
Hmm.
inadequate. And it was, just medium tempo 16 notes. It wasn't
Yeah.
actually hard, but I just, how important it is to have the feeling of the proper feel for that song, right? and
Yeah.
uh and uh I was intimidated by, like, I just felt scared to disappoint the three grown-up guys with all that experience.
Hmm.
And I was also a little bit intimidated by my sound, because I first had my regular tap shoes on, and I felt so loud in that little space.
Hmm.
Like, he was so subtle on his banjo, so melodic and groovy, and then I was just like clack 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 clack, and I couldn't. Yeah, it was hard, and we had like 7 takes or something, and I was
Wow.
of the same song again and again, and I was like, oh my god, no! And then I also getting into more and more stress about it, right? And like,
Yeah.
it was so funny that the sound guy was like, "What if you sit on a chair? Does that make it easier?" It's like, no, that does not make it easier. That's just harder. But the solution was to put on soft shoes, like just without the taps on the shoes, just a regular leather sole.
Yeah.
And I think I put on, because we were so close to, like, he was sitting right next to me, like I was almost kicking the musician, right, because it was such a small space. But
Hmm.
then for the recording that actually worked, like take 7 or 8, I had the headset on to hear his voice, because he was also singing, his voice and his banjo even closer to my ears, like even closer in
Hmm.
my head, and my own taps also, but like, as I said, with the soft shoe. And then I got into it. Like, then the feel was right. I could like land in the feel of the song. And so that's the recording that's on the album. It ended up to be okay. And then uh, we had a release concert for this album, and it was a bit of an insane project, because I had recorded with each of them separately, and this is not like one big band or anything. These are 11 musicians.
Right.
Two of them belong to the trio, so they belong together, but the rest of them all don't belong together. So, and I was like, should I now, with the release concert, just play only duets then, one by one, just work down the list, or
Hmm.
how do we do it? And yeah, it was super interesting. We had some things turned into a trio instead of a duo, and some I also had all of them play at the same time and follow my. I sort of danced and conducted the band at the same time. It was
Wow.
very, very, very exciting. I almost, I almost died. I think it was almost like out of body experience. It was very interesting because I noticed, with every concert, I guess I assume that you have same types, that you also have this experience that you can be, you have intruding thoughts while you're busy on stage, or just comments you give yourself,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
observations, and sometimes it can be something like, oh, I should be doing something better, or it can just be noticing someone not paying attention on the first row, or like just being a bit outside of the thing you're trying to do. And then, I've been working for 10 years now to try to get a better focus, and it's working. It's getting better and better, but I still have to sometimes do something actively to let go of some judgmental thoughts that I will have, especially when I'm improvising. But this concert was such a wildly insane task that I had no time for judgment, like nothing.
Wow.
There
Yeah.
wasn't not a single thought that was like, is this a good solution now? And there were enough, because, for example, with the banjo player doing that groove, he had some issues with his the cable. He had sound and then he didn't have sound. Like there were small challenges all the time, but none of them meant anything for the concert in the end. And for
Hmm.
my um, we were just going. There was no doubt in anything. It was a really interesting experience because I didn't think that was possible. Like
Yeah.
I didn't realize you could go there. But
Why do you think that is? Were you just so focused on the music, or?
I think I felt very much, because I was the only one sort of in charge, and I had 10 musicians because the last one was in Berlin. But these 10 people, they were all looking at me for, okay, what's happening?
Hmm.
When are we starting? How long are we playing? Like everything, and there was just no room for doubt. There was just
Hmm.
that it wasn't even. It was just no option to think about anything. It was just moving forward, and it was really satisfying because it was so freeing to not be busy with that, to only be busy with all the actual situations and how to deal with them. And I've looked back and thought back, and I of course realized that I used my most basic technique as a tap dancer. Like
Hmm.
I've been practicing that relaxed technique for a long time now. I do it a lot, but I almost didn't implement any of it in the
Hmm.
concert. I did almost no, virtuosic steps. Um, I did maybe one wing for just as a joke, or like it was very, very much based on steps and heels, I would say,
Yeah.
in the end. And but still totally satisfying, like not at all. It didn't feel like, oh, now she's only doing quarter notes because she can't focus. Not at all. It was just not the I just wasn't um, bringing the hard, the tough, the challenge, the technical material in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I'm oversimplifying because of course, I did stuff, but it was just, very, how to say, to the point or something.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was that was a really cool uh, sort of continuation of this crazy project. Very much like the flip side of live versus what you can do when you record.
Yeah.
And
It's so interesting to hear you talk about feeling like you really boiled it down to like the basic technique, because I definitely recognize a lot of the same thing when I record, or even when I play live too. um that like the simplest technical things can have the most impact, and I sort of wonder why that is. I mean, maybe because um when you really lean into the super foundational technique, you don't have to think about it at all. So you have 100% capacity
mm.
to really be present with the music. I don't know, but it's interesting to hear. Did you have the same experience also recording, or was that specifically during the concert?
No, this was the concert, and the recordings. Every recording had a different amount of pressure. And the one with the banjo, where I did also actually the least complicated tap dancing. Like I did paddle and rolls and some solo improv, which is basically just fun, like nothing super precious in a way. That one was the most challenging because it had to be so clean and it had to feel so good. Like it has to have the right, yeah, I keep saying feel, then like it's yeah, it's 16th notes, but it's not just any kind of, like it's still very specific. And so it felt so like, the red light is on, the mic is on, and now you deliver. And that was the yeah, I really, yeah, that was made a big impression on me, this situation. And then some other situations, it was just so much fun and it was so liberating. Like some of these improv collaborations, we improvised for seriously for 4 days, like
Mm.
again and again, and another one and this one. And then after, we would have like a problem trying to figure out what would be on the record, because on one day I felt like, oh, this is really it, this is the piece that shows what we did and what we do. And then 3 months later I would listen back and I would be like, no, that's not, this is much more, I it would just be
Mm.
way too much material, but so much fun while recording. And
Yeah.
yeah, and some of the Eva, the one on the pedal steel, he's like a super pro and a little bit older than me, and has also, yeah, he has released so many albums. He knows exactly how he wants to do it, and he was super sort of condensed. Like we were rigging, we were sound testing, sound checking, and then we improvised for 3 times 15 minutes or so. And then he was like, yeah, that's it. And I was like, oh,
Nice.
what? Are we not going to work harder? Are we not going to do more? Also because it's fun, and also because I'm like, this is too easy. Like it shouldn't be over before lunch. Like we need to invest some more. And it was really both the fact that I just wanted to play with him for a long time, because it was so enjoyable to play with this guy. But also because I had this thought that more material is better, because then we have more to choose from. Um, but I mean, when you work on it later to make those choices, it just becomes a whole lot of minutes to listen to. Like it's a lot. Like that's, some musicians warned me about it too. Like you have to be also sort of focused in the way you gather minutes of recordings, because especially if you work in a studio and with so and so many professionals, every minute is expensive also. And you can't just, it's like we have too many videos on our phones, and what do you do with them? And it just becomes a problem instead of a resource in a way. But
Yeah.
back to what you just said about the simplicity of the steps, that's something I really enjoy. The fact that when we practice or record or are on stage, that it seems like we can learn forever, right? It seems like it, even if I might be less strong in 10 years, or not as flexible, or maybe my feet will hurt once a while, or I feel like the capacity for listening closely to what you're doing and enjoying like the little differences that I could not hear um, 10 years ago, that's just such a gift of tap dance, that we can, if you want to go there, you can just keep going.
Hmm.
And I am now very much into I mean, I always loved the soft sounds. And the new project that I'm doing, it's a dance piece, but I want to record it as well. It's called Soft Ice, and it's based on slide material,
Mm.
slides and scrapes, and everything from small brushes to like running and sliding on 2 feet. And
Cool.
it's so it's like yeah. And so the same little step can be, it's just so rich. There's so much to discover all the time, and I keep being sort of, engaged in that, in those little differences, and how these shoes in this slide sound so deep, and then in these shoes it's like a higher pitch right there. Like I it's very satisfying, I think, that there's so much in the little step, in the little things.
Yeah.
And I also realize more and more that also for just regular tap dance grooves, like a time step, or whatever little groove motive that we're doing, if it's something that goes, I don't know, it could be like a regular pop song, or more like Latin based. I was working on a calypso groove some time ago, and then how you then discover that, yeah, you can do the rhythm exactly, but then you can also do the rhythm with these textures and tones, but also these textures and tones, and then how one thing is really right for the situation, and one thing which is exactly the same is still completely not right for this music or this situation. And how, it's just so surprising how much sort of possibilities, and um, yeah, how much how do you say, how you develop your taste for what's what, and how
Yeah.
this person is slapping to this music, and that's just not it, and this person is slapping to the same music, but then that's it, and why is that,
Mm.
why does that feel like that, and how, and of course, this micro timing, and being a bit behind or a bit in front of the beat, all of those things, but then also the texture thing, and the tone, the little tone differences that sometimes I feel like we're the only ones to really hear that. I don't know if the audience gets it, but it's still very fascinating, I think, to work on. I've been continuing to work with Michaela, the one from the Very Silent track.
Mm.
Just me and her. We are just practicing. Not We just are practice partners in a way, um, and it's really nice to see how she works on that exact thing of how to get the feel that she wants to have, and then how to hold on to it, and how sometimes it's just so hard to hold on to it, and sometimes it's so natural because it's closer to whatever you did before. Or
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, I think there's so much in there. Like nothing like recording and listening back to yourself to really get into the super fine nuances of
mm,
what you said, your sound, your timing, everything, like things that you yourself didn't even think about before, but suddenly you notice, like, oh, every time I do this, like it feels like it sounds like this, but then it sounds like this completely other thing
mm.
when I listen back to it.
Worked a little bit with a drummer to help me. There's one track, it's cute, the standard cute, but
Yeah.
it's in 5/8. It's like a really fast five, and so it has these really weird syncopations. I had to practice that for like a year before I could dance sort of freely to it. But cute is a song that's perfect for tap dancers or drummers too, because there's so many places to fill.
Right.
And so I was listening to drummers and trying to imitate, and then I made some material, and then I asked a friend, Ulrik, who's a drummer, to come over and look at it. It was so how do you say, not embarrassing, but very, very, I was so scared to show him anything,
Mm.
but I did, and he was so straightforward in his reaction, and in that practice with him, or when I was showing my stuff to him and asking him how he was hearing it, he was telling me, for example, that when I'm doing my stamps, uh, he's hearing a high note, and
Mm.
when I'm doing stamps, I am not hearing a bass. Of course, I'm not hearing a bass, but since it's like sort of the loudest thing I have, I've been insisting that it's a bass, that it's like
Hmm.
a grounding sound, but it's not.
And
And
also your body goes down.
yeah. So it feels like and I needed him to just tell me the facts, because
Hmm.
I was sort of blind to my own sound, because I was in my archive up here. Stamps are just sorted into the louder, darker sounds. But
Yeah.
especially when I do a stamp, I do one that's a bit open, that has that's not chugging down, but that's sort of opening up. And then yeah, of course it's a higher pitch, and of course if I do my time step like this and like that, then other people won't hear the one where I hear the one, because I'm distracting them with my stamp.
Mm.
My point was just that it was really helpful to have an outsider from a drummer's perspective just sort of tell me what my sound is,
Yeah.
so that I could hear it again, and in a new way, sort of.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly not something that you really encounter in tap most of the time. You don't
Mm.
really think about your sound in that particular way.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I'm curious if there are any specific like practice tools or exercises or mindsets or anything that you've discovered along the way that help you with exactly that, with like refining your tone and your time and your pocket and your groove.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I do sometimes work with a metronome, but o- m- only if I already have material, like if I already have set material. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, choreography. Then I'll take a metronome and um, and find out where I'm pushing and pulling, especially in the breaks, in the pauses. I have worked with a metronome in a more contemporary way in a dance piece that I made. That's called a solo I made called "Rhythm Is a Dancer." I spend the first 10 minutes of the piece. Some tap dancers, I think, hate this, but I have a metronome that clicks once every 10 seconds, and so that's too long for me or you to feel when it's coming, right? So
Right.
and then I use my body, both dancing and tap dancing, to sort of locate the metronome.
Hmm.
And it's a more meditative situation. Like it takes time, and I need to I use my body movement, or like either it's an arm going, or it's step heel heel step heel, like it's some simple step, and then use that to map the metronome, like to make sort of a landscape where the metronome enters, and then when it enters again, it's somewhere else in that landscape, and then I slowly start to feel when it's gonna come. um,
Hmm.
and so after a while, I sometimes could hit the exact metronome when it was coming, which is like so satisfying. it's uh,
Yeah.
it's almost like a game, and the audience is you can. There's a lot of anticipation, and sort of when it barely almost hits, but you're just behind it, or so in really enjoyed that kind of working with the metronome. It's not to clean up my own technique, but more as a uh, exercise in waiting, and in patience, and in being absolutely present, and then registering where it then comes, and how that, yeah, where it's going to come again. And so
Yeah.
uh, a very yeah, it was a very exciting thing to do. I had some tap dancers in the audience once, and they were frustrated because they were looking for the, like, what is this? But no, but otherwise I I for example, some months ago, I was gonna have a little a jam with someone on a stage with a big audience, like with some. I was supposed to do a good job, and it was two drummers from New Orleans type of band, Second Line,
Mm.
and he was suggesting a calypso groove, and I was like, "Oh yeah, what's that?" And then, yeah, of course. I mean, I've once I heard it, I recognized it immediately. But I am not like I have some terminology in that genre, but not all of it. So calypso, I was looking for sheet music. I was looking for different types of recordings with a calypso groove, and it's everywhere. It's in pop music too. So it was very familiar. But then I had a couple of I had the recordings from the guys I was going to play with, and then I had also, just other calypso songs from some Spotify list, and then I just tried to keep that groove and to find ways to find the step that works the easiest, and maybe some variations that would be less comfortable to do, if something just stays on one side, or should it, if it changes, do I keep messing up once I get to my left side? Like, I was trying to map out a little bit what's the easiest fitting thing, and how can I be more free, like how much freedom can I allow myself before I mess it up, like
Mm-hmm.
I mess up the groove, and can I jump out, do some kind of free and groovy break, and then come right back in? What do I need to know to have a handle on it? Yeah, and then I just dance around like that for a long time till I feel comfortable, and usually also involves singing or clapping, or um, drumming it on the table, and just really internalizing what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing with every groove I want to have. I try to, have some kind of a little project around it, and then work with it. And for example, now I don't know if you've heard the pinball counting music from Sesame Street.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and it goes in like 7 or something. I mean, it goes in like 3, 4, 4, 3, and then 5, and then it goes in many different measures. So the bass line is it's crazy, and so the last 1.5 weeks, I've been almost dreaming it, like seriously, in waking up thinking that, like, we get a bit obsessed about it, and then
Yeah.
and then it usually comes down to very basic intervals for me, in my learning process, is heels and its steps, or heels and taps
Mm.
maybe, and I'll just it's im- I try to get it right with low and high notes. That's important for me, to me.
Mm-hmm.
But the nuances, I'm not, like, at this stage with that song, I'm not ready for that. I'm just happy if I can get the rhythms right, and the breaks, and all the syncopations. That's. But on Monday, I'm meeting Magnus. He's a tuba player, and then we're gonna practice it together, and then, might be some singing. I can't really sing. I mean, I can sing, but I'm not a good singer. It's not what I wouldn't sell a record with me singing. But I will sing for a
Not yet.
project. Yeah, I mean, it's like a tool, and it's really, really useful. And I'm okay with I don't have any pride in, like, it needs to sound this way or that way. It just it's part of the song, so we'll be singing, I guess. Well, so yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but obsessing about the little grooves is how it
Yeah.
goes.
Totally. Totally.
Mm.
Yeah. I definitely think. I mean, there's so many great and helpful things I think that you shared just now. And I think it all kind of comes down to the certain mindset that you kind of have to cultivate if you want to work in a recording context, or even just like really lock in with other musicians when you
Mm,
play live. This like really deep awareness of the groove and how you are contributing to that groove, and like
mm,
what tools you have to play that groove. I also really liked what you mentioned in the context of rhythm as a dancer, the like feeling the space between
mm,
each metronome click. I feel like um, that's also such an important skill, whether the next click is 10 seconds away or just 1 second away,
mm,
to like use your body to your advantage and like really
mm.
filling that space. So yeah, I really like what you shared
Yeah,
there.
I think uh, I'm thinking about the live context more now. This thing, I guess you experience the same when you're the one tap dancer between two, three, four musicians. I often get sort of pushed to the front to if I want to be more sort of in line with the band, I have to insist. I have to like rearrange the drums so that I can be next to the drums instead of or some stuff like that. And this feeling of being on stage and the audience is looking at you and expecting you as a tap dancer to um, show off some cool stuff or something. And
Hmm.
the pressure that comes with that, and also I feel some resistance when I feel that. Like I'm like, no, 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 that's not what I'm here to do. And sometimes I mean, as I said before, I have so many strategies for myself to be to handle my work in a good way, and I'm really happy. It's much better now than 10 years ago, for example. Like I feel much more free to make my own decisions. I know how to what I need to say to people or how I need to act to be able to do the work the way I want to do it, instead of feeling, oh, this is expected of me now, or I should be doing something very impressive, but I don't want to, like all these different feelings, which is very different live than recording music. I felt that that was not at all the thing.
Yeah.
Of course, there was no audience either, so I sort of dropped that whole thing of trying to fulfill, like, hey, people have bought tickets, now you need to do something kind of thing. But yeah, a long time ago, I did a workshop with Nicholas Young, and
Hmm.
he was telling stories, and one of them or one thing he was talking about was that, okay, when it's your turn, then you're coming onto the stage and it's your turn now, that it's natural to feel the some kind of pressure, and then to have a harder time to wait or to stand still or to give yourself the time, or to let the pauses happen in the music, because we get sort of impatient and you think you should be actively, like, you should be filling it up, producing. Well, and he was like, no, no, when it's your turn, it's also your time and it's also your space, and you are in charge of it and you're responsible for it. And then you can, if you need to, you can walk. He was imagining a huge stage, I think, like a, like a tap dance gala situation,
Hmm.
and you can also just walk around stage two times before you even decide to take your turn, like, and you can just let people wait. That was really good for me to hear.
Yeah.
I feel that much more now when I'm on stage, that um, it's this is my time now, so that's very it's freeing me from what I think people expect, and people enjoy that. Like one concert I had, I was just standing there for, I don't know, maybe 3-4 minutes, which is a long time.
Yeah.
While where my partner, the electronic musician, he was setting stuff up and playing layers, and I was just waiting for that to happen for a while, and then I started dancing. And at that time, at that concert, we had it was in a dance house, so the audience was expecting contemporary dance, I guess. And there,
Interesting.
some of them were like shocked that I wasn't moving, that I wasn't. Are you gonna do something now? Like, and I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just waiting for the music to, get to the place where it needed some tap.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It doesn't always need
so,
it.
no, and it's fine. And then the other thing that I feel, how physical. This is a subject I guess you also talk a lot about, and that we've talked about it before. This thing about using your body to make music and how you do that, like how you do it efficiently, or how mm, you can do it in a small space. What about all the dancing that you can add to it? Like, and I use my body more than you, I think, and then some other tap dancers that focus more on the actual audio result. And for me, that's especially with the improvised concert, I need to do that also um, to be in my body so that I can be in the music.
Mm,
So, for example, if I feel a lot of pressure and I get a bit stiff, and my legs won't do exactly what I'm hearing is not coming out because there's a little blockage in between my intention and the shoes, and then I will actively, do something with my dancing body to get into my body. So,
mm,
for example, I will permit myself to do something really ugly and sort of break whatever aesthetics, and sort of crash the thing, at least
mm,
my thing. Some musicians will go with me then, and some will just carry along, and then I will. It won't necessarily disturb other people, but I will just let myself have, like, I don't know, like a little jazz solo, if you know what I mean, like
mhm.
something noisy, and then I'll feel that I am much looser right after,
Hmm,
and then my music is much more accessible to me immediately after.
That's so
So
interesting.
yeah, same goes for, of course, breathing, or maybe closing my eyes and really, really letting the focus go to my ears, so that I, again, like, that my tap and my sound is more accessible to me. Um, so yeah, I mean, I used some of that for these recordings as well, especially since nobody, I mean, it's filmed, but there was no audience, so I didn't feel like I needed to express myself so much through my face. So
Mhm.
in some of the videos, you can see that I'm like really zoning in to be able to be there in the sound.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you just articulated, it's such a such an important thing to be aware of as a tap dancer if you're working in any music context, is that most people that are going to see you are going to walk in with some kind of preconceived notion of what they think that tap dance is.
Mm,
And um, like, how do you navigate the fact that even though you are a music instrument, there's not really any way that you can hide the visual aspect of it. And like,
mm,
obviously every instrument has that. Like, you could watch a drummer and like
mm.
mostly watch them instead of listening to them, but like for tap, it's so obvious. So it's I feel like that was for me one of the big things that um contributed to my recording journey, because I was so frustrated with people like
Mm,
not really understanding what I want them to focus on. And like, I don't blame them based
mm.
on, everything else that they have learned to associate with tap dance. Um,
And
but
on that note, like, I've been thinking a lot about how to manipulate is a negative word, but how to prep the audience or how to guide them so that I get them where I want them. so that they can join
Hmm.
me for whatever we're doing and not be distracted by things. So, for example, with the electronic project, I am triggering uh, a lot, like maybe 80%. It depends. Christopher gives me different parts of the music in different, and he also doesn't tell me. Like I hear while I'm doing that I'm now in charge of that sound and that sound and that and then there's loops that are going that are connected to me that go every time I hit that. Like there's it's super complicated, and I sometimes I can't grasp what's going on. What I'm like,
Hmm.
I can't know how much I'm playing of the total. And so then I have strategies where I'm like implementing breaks to hear what stops when I stop. And
Hmm.
sometimes it's everything. Sometimes when I stop, the whole thing stops. And sometimes it's just that one melody that I have attached to my feet, and then the rest is still going. And maybe Christoph is even playing a solo on top of that or something. So um, and it's changing throughout the concerts. These concerts always usually last between half an hour and an hour, so it's like a long journey of different situations. We always tell the audience beforehand that the fact that I'm triggering stuff. We let them
Hmm.
know that, like, you hear my normal tap sounds through my shoe mics, but then you also hear me working on Christopher's sound, and then we show the contact mic and how, and then he has like two laptops and synthesizers, and we explain just a little bit because when we haven't, sometimes audiences are so sure that as a tap dancer, or at least as a dancer, you are just dancing to the music, and they really can't. And then they, some of them will have doubts. They will be like, how can it be that she's so in sync with those weird rhythms that are not really in time, but she still hit, what's that? And then sometimes, people come with compliments like, wow, you're a great dancer because you can hit like every note. And I'm like, yeah, I'm playing those notes. That's me. And then they have sort of missed out during the concert on the, I mean, it's not so important for me to impress anyone, but they have missed out on the improvisation journey of decision making, and whose expression are you hearing. So that's why we give a little prep talk,
Hmm.
very short, and it makes a difference for how people join the concert in a way. And then the other thing I also did with my double album is I had like a listening session. So there was like a theater, and I invited journalists and musicians that had been on the album, and also other friends. And then we were just listening. I wasn't playing the whole album. I think I played like 5 tracks.
Hmm.
Um, and these people hadn't seen anything and had never done anything live of this project. It was only done, secretly in the pandemic, like hidden from the public. And then the first exposure was only audio, and audio in a good way, like on a proper PA with some introduction. There was also like a panel, like a Q&A with a music professor talking about this project. But that was the idea was to give people the chance to really really listen, and not first see the video teaser and be thinking about it. I mean, I wanted to sort of force people to only think of it as music just for a second before they
Hmm.
also see it, and to give this sense. And so then people have this experience, and often they are surprised that, and I don't know if they're not disappointed, I think, but they're like a bit like as if they have been fooled. So it sounds so different when I just hear it, and then I see the content. I'm like, what, two different things? I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. It's two different things. So, it's like it's a secret that nobody told them, or like a cheating or something. But yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's interesting. I love that you give the audience the context though. I feel like that's a very very smart move because then you also allow them to engage with your work in a more meaningful way
Yeah,
and closer to what it actually is about for you.
yeah, yeah. It's been. I mean, I have so many different types of projects, and um, everything that's improvised, I usually let the people know that it's improvised
Hmm.
for many reasons. But with the triggering, it's yeah, because I always feel like I also have this principle that art should speak on its own. Like it shouldn't be explained with a whole book or with a introduction that sort of disclaims everything or defends everything or like tells you how to feel about it or whatever.
100%. Yeah.
So it's I'm a bit I want things to stand on their own, but as you said, like we just as tap dancers, you just get or just as dancers basically, and also as women, you just get so many assumptions that people have a hard time letting go of, and then it's good to include it. I also have a dance piece called Tap Noir, which also where I'm triggering stroboscopic lights. I have three stroboscopic lights. That's all the light there is, and I'm triggering them. Also, I trigger some sounds, but that doesn't matter. It's a piece made. It's a horror piece, and it builds on optical illusions like the after image effect, which is when you look into a light and then after you see something else on your inner eye on your
Yeah.
Netflix. Um, and that piece people can't really understand what's going on when they're watching it. It's a 40-minute piece in a total black, like absolutely black space, total darkness, and then you have these flashes, and it's with tap dance and also some contemporary dance. And it's a piece that's the expression is sort of supernatural and horror and it's scary, and it's there's like a scene where I look like this woman from The Ring coming out of the TV, and then there's
Wow.
scenes where I'm just in the air running and you can't see my feet land on the floor, but you can hear me like it's a with a chase. It's inspired on Japanese horror movies and film noir, but my point was just there's also this technical aspect that I want people to understand, but it's less important than the expression of the piece. And
Yeah.
I just realized that last month when I had a rerun of the piece, and I had the audience was informed that I am triggering light and sound in varying degrees, and I think I shouldn't have. I think I should have just left the technical part out of it. I mean, the
Hmm.
piece got great. People were super happy, and it wasn't nothing negative really. But some people, I think, might have been busy looking for how does it, what's technical, how is it, when is it like they. I think
Hmm.
it occupied their attention for some people instead of just being in this supernatural weird world of illusions where you like you don't want to know how a magician does his tricks,
Yeah.
like there's something not right, but you enjoy the fact that it's magic, right?
Hmm.
So for that piece, if we ever do it again, I will not inform people. I mean, it'll be in the program, but I won't insist on it the way
Yeah.
same way, because I realize that the artistic expression gets um, distracted from its core in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm totally on board with that. I'm also a big, yeah, I think art should speak for itself. But I do think that, like, I can definitely see both sides of it because I also think that, like, if you're not telling people, like, this is what it's about, this is what I want you to feel or something, but like, you're not doing that. Like, you're giving them kind of necessary information for them to really not even understand, but to frame it in a way that it will make more sense to them too. Because I
Mm.
feel like treating tap as a music instrument, as something that can be listened to, that does not have to be watched all the time, or that you might watch in a different way than people are used to. I think that's um, such an uncommon thing, and
Mm,
such a thing that we're now really only at the surface of exploring,
mm.
that I think that that almost is like a different thing, because it's almost like explaining a new technology, like this is how a
Yeah,
computer works.
it's like a little cultural education that people just need to get. Maybe I have a similar situation or approach. I I guess those sort of tasks that you can do as a music ensemble to connect. Right now, I'm just thinking of one specific exercise. It's from some jazz improvisation book. I forgot the name of the author, but I think it's a book that here in Norway, every music bachelor, you have that book also. Like it's just the
Hmm.
basic improvisation techniques for ensembles, for groups. And this one game is about dots and lines. You have a couple of musicians or tap dancers or whatever, and you can only make dots and lines. And when you can only make a line connected to someone else's dot,
Hmm.
so you have a lot of dots in the room going, or not. Like maybe there's a lot of pause too. Who knows? And then at some point, somebody will do a line connected to someone else's dot, and then you also have to keep the line going until you decide which dot to connect the end to.
Hmm.
So what happens is it's like a game of focusing, like same type, in the same way like in a dance or theater class you will throw a ball around with some rules, and you will get your sharpen your senses and work together. And when you do this game, I mean, sometimes it can be a bit groovy or rhythmical, but often it's very contemporary sounding, or like minimalistic in a way. But since everybody's aiming to fulfill the task, as good as you can, it's so clear when you watch that people are connected and that people are interacting. And it's also clear that this is not something that you have prepared. Like you see that it's happening right now. It's like watching sports, but then it's cool because it turns into music, right? It's almost always satisfying as music, I think. But when if you have an improvisation concert with some tap dancers and some musicians,
Hmm.
and everybody relates to this idea and works on a task like this, you can tell the audience through that what the idea, like the fact that we're all relating as musicians, or the fact that you're building this music together in the now, that it's not composed. Or so what I mean to say is just like there are several ways of bringing the audience into what's going on without saying it in words. And it's a little bit the same as if you're always uh, I feel underestimated a lot when I'm on stage or in together with musicians, or especially maybe men. Then and then sometimes you strategically I will do something to just let people know that I know what I'm doing, and then
Hmm.
that question mark is just out of the way already. And that's a artistic choice, and it's not always what I want for the beginning of a concert or for the beginning of a meeting, but sometimes it's more efficient than waiting to be seen or waiting to be understood as a musician.
Yeah.
So I'm still looking for ways to do that. Like, let me know if you discover good approaches to sort of to sort of set the room the way you want it before you go in.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I think what you're saying right there, I've definitely experienced that a lot of times. I think for me personally, I try to rely or lean most on just competence and try to be as knowledgeable about every single thing that's going on
Hmm.
in that moment. And like, um, I think also um, being very versatile in terms of accompanying people and like I mean, even just starting with where I place myself in the room, like you were talking about earlier, that I'm like not putting myself in front of the band, but like
Mm-hmm.
within the band, I'm like looking at them, I'm like giving them the looks of like, okay, I'm like, I'm supporting you now, I'm accompanying, like you do your thing. Like I think it's all these little things
Mm.
that nobody really teaches you. Like you
No.
have to be you have to be in the room and feel terrible and feel like
Mm.
everybody thinks that you're just this like cute tap dancing
Mm.
girl, and like you just learn one thing at a time, and
Mm.
then at some point you, I guess you can just kind of enter those spaces with the confidence that will make most people understand that like
Mm.
you know what you're talking about, you have a deeper understanding of music than they probably think.
Mm.
But it's always a little bit of a of a challenge, I
Mm.
think,
I'm
especially when you work with people that you've never worked before.
Yeah, I must say that since I came back to Norway 8 years ago, so it's been a while now, and since I came, I've been like pushing so hard. I've been inviting so many musicians for improvisation concerts, and I've made up projects, gotten funding, always also paying people properly. And of all the, I mean, it must have been like at least 50 or 60 musicians until now that I've really had proper working experience with. And 99% of them are just great. They're just great people, lovely people. And everybody has a different insight that I can learn from, either just watching them do their thing or talking about some nerdy subject, or it's uh, everybody, like there's like 2 3 people here in Oslo that will say sort of no to me, and the rest is just like, yeah, let's go. And I don't mind to be, you know I it's fun to just learn, and it's also I don't like to be underestimated, of course. I want some respect, but it's also fun to be in the situation of always learning. And uh, how do you do that, and what are you doing now, and what's happening, and what if I do this? And it's just so much. It's one of the things I really love about making art is this process. So doing it with nice and really competent people is really enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely amazing and very very exciting to see all the different things that you're able to work on.
Mm, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think like playing with people is the best practice.
Mm,
You learn
absolutely.
so much all at once. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point when you were asking about practice. I feel like how, because you can do a lot alone, and it's so healthy to work alone. And I also actually I love to be working alone, but to get going as a musician, it's so valuable to work with people.
Yeah.
Even I'm just working with one feels like the not necessarily the best, but then it's I noticed that as soon as we're more than 3 people in a band, it's so much harder for me to understand what's happening. I mean, you're still
Mm,
making the same music, of course, but all these collaborations with 1 or 2 people is just really, there's so much to get out of it. So that, I don't need a 5 piece band to do something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we could go on
I know.
forever
I,
talking about all the different
I
things.
want to show you one more thing, but of course, you can just delete this. But I just want to show you as a friend.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but in the pandemic, there was a shortage of PVC, so pressing albums was suddenly a problem.
Huh.
Like
Interesting.
yeah, there was like a 9-month waiting time for, just because there wasn't enough material to make records with. So if you would make a record, it would be like, yeah, good luck, that's going to take a year, before you
Wow.
get. And last year it was supposed to, the record was supposed to be done in just a couple of months, but then the plant, the factory in Poland, it had a meltdown, so it wasn't ready for the release concert. Classic
Oh no.
situation, typical, like, yeah, you have the concert but you don't have the album. uh, and then it was also my birthday, so my boyfriend, he bought me this. um, it's a
Whoa.
tiny record maker. Of course, it's from, some factory in Japan.
Wow.
And what you can do, you can plug, well, I guess it's a mini jack, and then you can attach, it can either be a mixer, and some mics, or it can be your
Mm-hmm.
iPhone, and you're just playing the music that was supposed to be on the vinyl, and you just play it right into the thing, and then this one this one cuts it. It cuts the vinyl,
Whoa.
and it's, I mean, it's not actual vinyl. These sheets that are the vinyl for this, I don't know, feels more like just plastic. It's much
Hmm.
thinner. It's not like super super thick like these real ones. Yeah, it'll cut it, and then later you can play it like a normal record from this thing.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
it's so.
What's the material of the records?
I think it's plastic. It's still wrapped because I'm too scared to touch it. But before, when everything was vinyl, you could get like cheap or fake vinyl records, thin as paper, and they would also, like, you would buy Donald Duck magazine, and there would be a little record in it, like, as
Mm-hmm.
a gift, like that thin. So it feels much more like that, super thin. And I got just 10 with the thing, which I had to, how do you say, build myself after a video instruction. There was 10 of these, and I haven't dared to record anything because I want to save it for something, and I don't want to waste the little records that I have. But I
Yeah.
think I think I could probably go to some craft shop and just get something similar, so I could keep making stuff. And it was a joke from my partner, of course, like, haha, here, now you can make your own. But I will make something sometime. I could send you one, like, it'll fit in a little envelope, nobody will there will be no import tax on it.
Yes, please. That sounds so fun. I
Yeah.
love it.
I
Yeah,
wonder how
please
many
keep me
minutes.
posted.
Yeah, I will.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Janne. This was so fun, and
Thank you for
I can't
having
wait.
me.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Janne. To find out more about her work, you can visit her website, janneeraker.com, and her Instagram at Janne Eraker. Her 3 albums are on Bandcamp and all major streaming platforms. Links are in the show notes. See you soon.